Let's face it, a lot of people in other states hate Californians. They complain about those filthy rich people moving into their state, buying up all the real estate, spending money, bringing in jobs and a larger tax base for the state and local governments, and of course, trying to turn their state into California. Well, here at World According to Briggs, we track those complaints, not with the precision of an audit, but occasionally we do a quick count of how many comments we get about Californians moving to whatever state we're talking about. In this video, we're going to tell you which states seem to loathe Californians the most. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, the state of Washington. Washingtonians have a complicated relationship with Californians. On one hand, they appreciate the tech money. On the other hand, they'd like their neighborhoods back. Californians have turned Seattle into a housing nightmare. Now, most of the complaints about Californians are coming from the Seattle metro area, so I'm not ignoring the whole state. This is just where the complaints come from. But like I said, Californians have turned Seattle into a housing nightmare, and the locals aren't thrilled about the influx of Patagonia-wearing techies complaining about the coffee, which objectively is better in Seattle, by the way. And don't get them started on the driving. Californians, used to LA gridlock, treat Seattle streets like a Mario Kart race. Washingtonians just want to drink their craft beer in peace, but Californians keep showing up asking where all the avocados, hot yoga, and Pilates places are. Here's a hint. Those things are everywhere. You just got to look for them. Now, we do get a lot of complaints from Washington, and it is mostly Seattle people complaining about Californians moving up there. The prices for housing and real estate and everything else, condos, whatever, in Seattle is insane, especially when you compare it to the rest of that state. Now, this has no bearing on the ranking system of this video. We're just going by which ones we feel give the most complaints. But I am going to add how many Californians moved to each state and how many of that state moved to California in 2023, the report that was done by the IRS that was published in mid-2024. But it's 2023 numbers. Here you go. Californians to Washington in 2023 was 26,550 tax-paying adults. Washington to California, 18,309. So pretty close. Number 9, Florida. Florida and California already have a rivalry. They're the only states with weather good enough to brag about it year-round. Californians moving to Florida, however, feel like a clash of cultures. You mean I can't get oat milk at Dunkin'? They cry as the Floridians roll their eyes and reach for a sweet tea. Floridians also resent the attitude. Californians tend to act like they're doing Florida a favor by moving there. Meanwhile, Floridians are just trying to survive alligators and hurricanes without adding West Coast smugness to the mix. The Sunshine State is chaotic enough without Californians trying to fix it. Personally, I know quite a few Californians that have moved to Florida over the years. It's like one of the top 5 states people I knew from growing up in high school and stuff like that, what states they moved to. It's like Arizona, obviously, because it's right next to California. Nevada's number 2, Oregon's number 3. And then after that, it's Texas, Florida, and Idaho. That's just my experience. But Californians to Florida in 2023 was 24,011 tax-paying adults, and Florida to California was 14,009. Number 8, Colorado. Coloradans have a love-hate relationship with Californians. Sure, the Golden State sends tourists and money their way, but it also sends crowds and sky-high housing prices. Boulder and Denver have seen an influx of Californians who rave about the craft beer scene and balk at the idea of shoveling snow. Now, this is what's dangerous about Colorado and Californians. Colorado, one of the biggest downsides is fire season. The air quality just sucks when fire season kicks up. Now, this goes on in a lot of states, but in my opinion, two of the worst are going to be Colorado and California. Well, if you got Californians moving to Colorado, they're already used to it. It's not a turnoff to them, that's just life. But then you have the outdoors. Californians love to brag about their new Colorado lifestyle, as if skiing once a year and owning a Patagonia jacket qualifies them as a local. True Colorado residents know better. They'd prefer Californians stop turning their state into Aspen on steroids. I've said this before in a video recently, but if you've never gone to Zillow and look at the prices for condos and houses in Aspen, it is jaw-dropping. 1-bedroom condo, $1.6 million. I'm not even joking. Californians to Colorado, well, that is $15,585. Coloradans to California is $9,745. Number 7, Utah. Utah is where Californians go where they want to see a smiling face that's really not happy to see you. That's how Utah people are. Hi, welcome to Utah. Oh, we're lovely to have you. And then they get with their friends are, what the hell is this guy doing here? Utahns are proud of their natural beauty, from Zion to Arches. What they're less proud of is the influx of California clogging up their trails and buying up ski resorts. Park City, once a quaint mountain town, now feels like a Sundance after party that never ends. Californians also bring their beach vibe to Utah, which locals find confusing. Do you really need flip-flops in January, they ask? Utahns are practical people, and they'd like Californians to stop turning their state into a playground for Instagram influencers and second home buyers. It's so bad, a couple years ago, the governor of Utah sent a letter to the governor of California telling him to stop chasing people out of California because they're ending up in Utah, and Salt Lake City in particular. Obviously, this was kind of just a jab at him. He wasn't serious, like the governor can stop people from moving places. Anyway, Californians to Utah was 8,237, and Utah to California was 4,744, so a little more than half. Number 6, Montana. Now, Montana doesn't have a bunch of people moving in or out, but when you look at the complaints, there's a ton of them. Montanans used to joke about their state had more cows than people. Now it feels like the cows are being evicted to make room for luxury log cabins and Airbnb rentals. Californians, in their quest for authentic wilderness, have turned Montana into their personal Yellowstone spin-off. Locals are not amused. They don't like it. It's not their thing. They wish you'd stay where you are. They watch Californians build massive mansions, then lecture everyone about sustainability. It's the hypocrisy that gets to them. You traded your hybrid Prius for an ATV and expect us to be impressed? Montanans are fiercely independent, and they'd prefer Californians admire their state from afar, and preferably through a documentary or two, which, if you've never seen a documentary about Montana and the wildlife there, it's really impressive. It's some of my favorite things to watch. But there's a few places in Montana that are being overrun with Californians that have, too much disposable income. California only sent Montana 3,129 people in 2023, but Montana sent 2,811, so that's pretty close to an even exchange. But they still complain about it an awful lot. Number 5, Arizona. Arizona used to be the retirement haven where Midwesterners go to soak up their sunshine and play golf. Then Californians came in like a sandstorm, bringing their solar panels and HOA complaints. Phoenix, in particular, has turned into a battleground where the locals complain about the rising home prices and Californians gripe about the lack of vegan taco trucks, which I believe should be legal to own one. That's wrong. If you give me a taco without an X animal in it, I will do some typing on your Yelp page. I know, spoken like a true Californian. What really grates on Arizonans is the attitude. Californians love to complain about Arizona's dryness, as if they did it on purpose. It's like moving to a desert and being shocked there was no ocean. Desert life isn't for everyone, but Arizonans wish Californians would figure that out before moving in. Californians sent 32,864 to Arizona, and Arizona sent them about 16,176. Number 4, Oregon. Yep, I was one of them back in 2010. Moved from California to the Portland metro area. Oregon has long been the moody hipster sibling to California's sunshiny influencer vibe. The influx Californians, however, have disrupted the state's delicate ecosystem of flannel shirts, essential oils, and yoga in the woods. Portland especially resents the tech bros who've decided Oregon is the next Silicon Valley. Spoiler alert, it's not. Housing prices are a sore spot here. Californians have a habit of showing up with fat wallets and outbidding locals, then complaining that there's not enough sushi joints or something stupid like that. Oregon residents would prefer Californians stick to Trader Joe's and leave their hiking trails un-GPS tagged. Thank you very much. Speaking of all that, I just got a new pair of hiking boots. A pair of Danner Mountain Passes. It's like the only non-Nike shoes I own at this point. And yes, if you don't know, the Portland metro area is big into Nike. It's like one of the biggest employers for the area. But in 2023, California sent 19,288 tax-paying adults to Oregon, while Oregon sent them about 11,921, which, that's pretty close to being a fair exchange. Well, really not, but you get what I'm saying. Some people are always under the impression that, Californians sent their state like 600,000 last year and only 12 people from their state moved to California. It's just so out of whack what people think is really going on with migration patterns. It's kind of weird. Number 3, Nevada. Nevadans are fed up with Californians treating their state like a budget extension of the West Coast. They've already had to deal with Vegas tourists who think 3-for-1 margaritas at 11 a.m. is a personality trait. Now Californians are snapping up Reno real estate, making locals feel like the board game just got flipped without their permission. And then there's Lake Tahoe. Nevadans don't mind sharing until Californians show up acting like they own the place, saying things like, "Oh, I vacationed here every summer growing up, so it's like I own this place." Californians might chirp as if they've got squatter rights. Newsflash, they don't. Nevadans would love it if Californians took their Tesla Caravan back across the Donner Pass, preferably before ski season. Now, Lake Tahoe is one of the most beautiful lakes we have, but there's a state line running down the middle of it from north to south, which if you ever get a chance and you're in the area, let's say you go to Reno, you're in Carson City, something like that, go visit Lake Tahoe. It is one of the most beautiful lakes in this country. I mean, honestly, California has a lot of problems, but nobody can deny it is one of the most beautiful states naturally we have. Californians sent 31,864 Californians to Nevada, while Nevada sent 16,221. Yeah, they got an axe to grind, I'd say. Number 2, Idaho. Idahoans used to be able to enjoy their potato fields and pristine landscapes in peace. Enter Californians who seemingly think Idaho is the next Malibu, just with no tasty waves and fewer celebrities. Housing prices have skyrocketed as Californians bid on cabins like an eBay auction. And traffic? Let's just say Boise, however you want to say it, wasn't built for this kind of chaos. It's just not. Now they're having problems catching up with the infrastructure. What really irks Idahoans, though, is the smugness. Californians love to mention how rustic Idaho is, which is code for there's not a Whole Foods in sight. They'll rave about how charming everything is while simultaneously demanding it just doesn't have as many designer shops as they'd like. If you ask an Idahoan, they'd probably tell you, "We're fine the way we are. Please stop Instagramming our rivers. Please come and fish, then go home." In 2023, it was a slow year for Idaho. California only sent Idaho 10,405 Californians, while Idaho sent 2,940 Idahoans. All right, before we get to number 1, if you're thinking about moving to any state, leaving California or leaving any state, there's a link in the description area below for Home and Money. It's a cool website that can get you in touch with a real estate agent anywhere in the country. It has all kinds of other tools on there to help you with your real estate process. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Texas. Yes, Texas is like the grizzled veteran of the California migration wars. They've been taking on Californians for a very long time. There's always been a back and forth, but it really picked up, I would say, over a decade ago. Which this was when California was still had, people from all over the country just flooding into California and hardly anyone was leaving. Texas was the exception. Now, I've talked about this before, but, a lot of companies have moved to Texas. They bring a lot of employees, and that helps. So the company moves there, they take about half their employees, then they hire a bunch of Texans to fill the jobs. So California moving there, it's just not all bad to Texas. But a lot of Californians over the years have moved there. The last time more Texans moved to Californians than Californians to Texas was in the late 90s. So it's been over 25 years. Texas have a saying, "Don't mess with Texas." Californians apparently heard, "Please mess with Texas." Lone Star residents gripe about Californians moving and trying to recreate Austin into San Francisco light. The influx has driven housing prices through the roof, and let's just say the folks aren't thrilled about bubble tea replacing sweet tea at local cafes. But it's not just all the California stereotypes that make these people roll their eyes. Texans also roll their eyes at California politics. To them, it's like Californians are escaping a burning house, then they show up and start demanding matches and kerosene. "Y'all didn't like it there, but now you're turning my Dallas suburb into Berkeley," grumbles every local, sarcasm aside. Texans know how to throw some shade, with a barbecue skewer in one hand and a Willie Nelson playlist in the other. California sent 54,136 tax-paying adults to Texas in 2023, while Texas sent California 23,316. All right, that's today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, Have a great day. Be nice to each other.